The world doesn't fear monsters. It fears thinkers. Not the kind who memorize quotes or follow trends, but the kind who see through illusions. The kind whose silence is louder than the crowd's applause. The kind who refuse to kneel before mediocrity. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "Few men have the courage for that which they really know." Because truth, real truth, isn't pretty. It's dangerous. A strong mind threatens the order of the weak. It questions authority. It refuses to conform. And in a world built on comfort, obedience, and sameness, nothing terrifies people more than someone who thinks freely. This is the secret Nietzsche tried to show us. If you dare to think for yourself, you will be hated for it. But that hatred is proof of your strength. You've probably felt it. That invisible tension when you say something real and the room goes silent. You speak your mind and suddenly people call you arrogant, cold, or too intense. You refuse to follow the crowd and they call you selfish, weird, or different. Most people don't want the truth. They want comfort. They want validation. They want someone to nod along while they drown in illusions. But if you have a strong mind, you can't unsee the games people play. You can't pretend to believe what they believe. And so you become an outsider. Nietzsche understood this loneliness deeply. He spent his life warning us that individual thought comes with exile. The higher we soar, he said, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly. A strong mind sees patterns others can't. It detects lies and smiles, fear and authority, and conformity and virtue. And because of that clarity, the world treats you like a threat. But Nietzsche would say, that's not a curse. That's a sign you're awakening. To understand why strong minds terrify people, you must first understand Nietzsche's greatest insight. Most people don't live for truth. They live for belonging. Society is built on fragile agreements, beliefs that hold the illusion of safety. Religion, morality, politics, culture, they're all ways to avoid chaos. But the strong mind doesn't seek safety. It seeks reality. And the moment you start thinking for yourself, you expose how hollow the world's values truly are. That's why Nietzsche called truth a form of warfare. Because to speak the truth is to break the spell that keeps people asleep. And those who live in dreams will hate you for waking them up. Nietzsche's entire philosophy, from the birth of tragedy to Thus Spoke Zarathustra, was a battle cry for those brave enough to think beyond the herd. He called them the free spirits, the ones who stand alone in the storm, while everyone else hides under the illusion of morality. To Nietzsche, strength wasn't about domination. It was about independence. A strong mind doesn't need the crowd's approval because it draws power from within, and nothing frightens the weak more than someone who no longer needs their permission to exist. Let's break down the 7 reasons strong minds terrify people, and what Nietzsche taught us about turning that fear into power. Number 1, strong minds see through illusions. Most people survive by lying to themselves. They pretend their job gives their life meaning. They convince themselves their suffering is noble. They say they're good people, even when they're cowards. The strong mind doesn't fall for that. It sees that most virtue is disguised fear, and most morality is just obedience in costume. Nietzsche called this the herd mentality. When people are weak, they create moral systems that reward weakness. They call submission good and ambition evil, because it protects them from those who might rise above them. But the strong mind breaks the spell. It dares to say, maybe what you call evil is just power you don't understand. That's why the herd calls thinkers dangerous, because they make others question their excuses. Number 2, strong minds refuse victimhood. In Nietzsche's time, and even more today, people worship their wounds. They build their identity on suffering and expect the world to reward them for it. But the strong mind rejects victimhood. It knows pain doesn't make you special. How you transform pain does. Nietzsche believed tragedy was sacred, not because it destroys us, but because it reveals what we truly are. He wrote, "What does not kill me makes me stronger, not as motivation, but as challenge." If your suffering hasn't transformed you, it owns you. That's why strong minds terrify victims, because their existence proves you can rise, and that truth destroys excuses. Number 3, strong minds don't need validation. Most people crave approval like oxygen. They want to be seen as good, kind, moral, acceptable. But the strong mind stops asking for permission. It realizes, if you want truth, you must be willing to be misunderstood. If you want greatness, you must be willing to be hated. Nietzsche called this the path of the overman, the one who creates his own values, who doesn't need a tribe to define his worth. When you no longer seek validation, you become untouchable. And that's why the weak grow uneasy around you. They can't control what doesn't need them. Number 4, strong minds embrace conflict. Nietzsche believed life is not peace, it's struggle. He said, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star." Weak minds fear conflict because it threatens their comfort. Strong minds seek it because it sharpens their spirit. To Nietzsche, conflict was sacred energy, a sign that life still burns in you. He saw peace as decay and challenge as the true path to evolution. So when you speak your mind, when you challenge the status quo, don't expect applause. Expect resistance. That's the sign you're alive. Number 5, strong minds expose hypocrisy. People don't hate the truth. They hate being seen. When you expose hypocrisy, you hold up a mirror, and mirrors make people furious. Nietzsche saw this clearly in religion, politics, and culture. He wrote that people love to preach virtue, but they secretly crave power, lust, and control. A strong mind doesn't shame those instincts. It understands them, because it knows the goal is not to be pure, but to be whole. And that's why society labels strong thinkers immoral, because they see what everyone else tries to hide. Number 6, strong minds turn pain into power. Nietzsche's life was pure suffering, illness, isolation, heartbreak. But he turned that pain into philosophy. He taught that pain is not an obstacle. It's the forge. Only through destruction do we create. Only through suffering do we discover who we are. He called this amor fati, the love of fate. To love not just pleasure, but pain. Not just success, but failure. To say yes to everything life gives you. The weak run from pain. The strong mine it for meaning. And that's what makes them dangerous. Number 7, strong minds create their own morality. When Nietzsche declared, "God is dead," he wasn't celebrating chaos. He was warning us. He meant that the old moral systems, religious, political, cultural, were crumbling. And if we didn't create our own values, we'd be slaves to emptiness. The strong mind takes that responsibility. It doesn't wait for orders, it writes them. It becomes its own law, its own compass, its own meaning. And that, Nietzsche said, is the birth of true power. So what happens when you stop being afraid to think? When you embrace the exile, the misunderstanding, the solitude, you become what Nietzsche called the creator. Someone who no longer imitates, but originates. Someone who no longer reacts, but shapes reality. You stop fearing judgment because you've built your own kingdom inside. You stop seeking belonging because you belong to yourself. You stop chasing happiness because you found something deeper. Power rooted in authenticity. Strong minds terrify people because they reveal what others could be. If only they stopped lying to themselves. And that's the essence of Nietzsche's secret to power. Power isn't dominance. It's the unbreakable calm of someone who knows who they are and no longer needs the world's permission to exist. Ask yourself, when was the last time you betrayed your truth just to fit in? When did you hide your intelligence to make others comfortable? When did you silence your instinct because you fear judgment? Every time you do, a piece of your strength dies. Every time you obey the herd, your light dims. Nietzsche believed humanity's greatest task was to overcome itself, to rise above guilt, fear, conformity, and become what he called the Übermensch, the higher self that lives beyond approval. That's your war. Not against others, but against your own comfort. The question is not, are you strong? The question is, are you strong enough to be alone? Because if you can stand alone, you are already free. If this message stirred something in you, if you feel that spark Nietzsche spoke of, the one that whispers, "You were born to rise," then don't let it fade. After this video, take 5 minutes, write down one belief, one habit, one fear that keeps you chained to the herd. Then begin to destroy it. And if you want more ideas like this, where philosophy meets fire and psychology meets rebellion, subscribe to Echoes of Thought. Because the world doesn't need more obedient minds. It needs more thinkers brave enough to terrify it.